In this video, we'll talk about a phenomenon called apophenia. In simple terms, it's the experience of seeing patterns or connections in random or meaningless data. Now, this phenomenon is admittedly very common among gamblers. Now, the original term is attributed to Klaus Conrad by Peter Brugger, who defined it as the unmotivated seeing of connections accompanied by a specific experience of an abnormal meaningfulness. But it's come to represent the human tendency to seek patterns in random information in general, such as with gambling and paranormal phenomena. In 1958, Klaus Conrad published a monograph titled Die beginnende Schizophrenie, Versuch einer Gestaltanalyse des Wahns. The onset of schizophrenia, attempt to shape analysis of delusion, not yet translated or published in English. But in that, he described in groundbreaking detail the stages of schizophrenia. He coined the phrase apophenia to characterize the onset of delusional thinking in psychosis. This neologism is translated as apopheny from the Greek apo, away from, and pheinin, to show, to reflect the fact that the schizophrenic initially experiences delusion as revelation. In contrast to epiphany, however, apopheny does not provide insight into the true nature of reality or its interconnectedness, but is a process of repetitively and monotonously experiencing abnormal meanings in the entire surrounding experiential field, which are entirely self-referential, solipsistic, and paranoid. Being observed, spoken about, the object of eavesdropping, followed by strangers. In short, apophenia is a misnomer that has taken on a bastardized meaning never intended by Conrad when he coined the neologism apopheny. In 2008, Michael Shermer coined the word patternicity, defining it as the tendency to find meaningful patterns in meaningless noise. In The Believing Brain from 2011, Shermer says that we have the tendency to infuse patterns with meaning, intention, and agency, which Shermer calls agenticity. In 2011, parapsychologist David Luke proposed that apophenia is one end of a spectrum, and that the opposite behavior, the tendency to attribute chance probability to apparently patterned or related data, can be called randomania. Luke indicates that this often happens in the hand-waving away of everyday phenomena, such as apparent dream precognition, and that this occurs even if research suggests that the phenomena may be genuine. However, such researches are often questioned. Roulette is without fail the epithet of apophenic stupidity. An electronic display beside each wheel displays a list of the most recent numbers spun, and the casino has pre-printed cards on which I observe people religiously marking down the numbers as they appear. Confident that they've compiled a long enough list, these people then draw patterns from the data and typically place bets on those numbers which have appeared with the lowest frequency, on the premise that those numbers' time is up and they're more likely to be spun next. Evidently, pattern thinking is at work here. Their intuition is that in the long run, the dispersion of numbers rolled will revert back to the mean. That is, the under-rolled numbers should come up more often to equalize the frequency distribution. Along those same lines of logic, newspapers will publish how frequently each lotto number has come up since the inception of the game. The clear flaw in this way of thinking is that each turn of the roulette wheel and each draw of the lotto is an independent event, which is not contingent upon previous outcomes. Picture a European roulette wheel with 37 slots, 0 to 36. Now let's say the number 28 has come up in the last 4 spins. Statistically, there is a 0.0005% or 1 in 1.87 million chance of this occurring. If I was to promise a 20 to 1 payout that 28 wouldn't come up on the next spin, there'd be no shortage of takers. Why? Because we're generally hardwired to rely on pattern thinking in our evaluative reasoning and decision-making processes. 28 has come up 4 times in a row. There's no way it could come up again. That would be almost impossible. And so the 20 to 1 bet is often taken because it seems commonsensical. But of course, because the result of the next spin is an independent outcome, it pays no heed to the outcomes of historical spins. Therefore, there is exactly a 1 in 37 or 2.7% chance of 28 coming up in any given spin. So in taking my offer of a 21 payout is a terrible bet. If you bet $1 of the 37 equally probable outcomes, you get back or win $20 in one of them, but lose your dollar in the other 36. So the mathematical expectation is that for every dollar you bet, you would expect to lose 43 cents. Clearly no one with half a brain would take such a bet. Therein apophenia rears its head. The card-marking roulette players are making decisions based on patterns which have been lifted from unsystematic or random and meaningless information on the past spins of the wheel. Yet many gamblers in such games seem to think they have the house beat because they possess some exceptional aptitude. Delusions of grandeur.
If this was useful to you, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and like our video. Now, maybe it's time to get your play to the next level with the great strategies you will find in our site, or watch another one of our videos.